8:25.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. أما بعد, inshallah, this is supposed to be the dars for Aqeedah, and the reference book, inshallah ta'ala, is called أعلام السنة المنشورة في اعتقاد الطائفة المنصورة, or it's famous to be known as the 200 question and answers in matters of Aqeedah. I don't know they translate like this. It's 200 questions in matters of Aqeedah. And this is, mashallah, it's a very good book. I taught from it many times and it's very benefiting, and there's so much barakah and blessings in it, inshallah ta'ala. In it, basically, all matters of Aqeedah, matters of belief, in a very easy way, in question and answer. And hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, for those who want to participate, there will be an exam, inshallah ta'ala. After we finish some questions, we'll have a quiz or an exam to see how is the understanding with the book, inshallah ta'ala, and what is being said. It's not mandatory, you can still come and you don't have to take the exam, or the matter is easy, inshallah ta'ala. But it's very important to make sure that what we learn, we understand it good, understand it in the proper way, and of course the goal of it is to act accordingly.
No.
They say over there they cannot hear with sisters.
Bismillah. Is it better this way?
No, they cannot hear over
They
there.
can hear.
This is
They can hear.
So the goal of anything that we learn is to believe, since it's a matter of Aqeedah, that means originally it's a belief in the heart. And the belief in the heart will lead the believer to act with the heart also, because there are deeds done by the heart. And things that we say will be differently, will be according to what we believe. And then our actions will be also according to what's the belief in the heart. So Al-Aqeedah is the foundation, is the most important thing. Anything that we do is based on what we believe, based on matters of Aqeedah. And that's why the word Aqeedah in Arabic linguistically comes from Aqada, which means something to be made as a knot, something that not to be loose, something that a person has as a firm thing, that it doesn't increase or decrease, in the sense that once you believe in it, it's there. And once you believe in something, then your actions has to be accordingly. Even the salah that we prayed, why would a person pray? Because he believes that this is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as a result of this Aqeedah, we prayed. Some people pray at home, some people come to the masjid and pray. Why do those who come to the masjid, they come to the masjid? Because it's a matter of belief, matter of Aqeedah, that this is mandatory. And even the things that are recommended are recommended. And what does it mean to do something that is recommended? If something that is mustahab, why would a person do it? Because of the Aqeedah, the belief that it's recommended, meaning that a person will get a reward if you do it. Yes, there is no sin if a person leaves it, but should we just believe that this is mustahab and that's it? No, it has to show in our actions. If it's mustahab, that means do it. That means we do the best we can to do what is mustahab, to do what is recommended. I'm not talking about the mandatory things, even the recommended acts. If we believe that it's recommended, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes for the person to do it. It's a beloved deed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's why Jibreel alayhi salam came down to the Prophet ﷺ with such an action. So those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, once they believe that this is a recommended act, they would do their best that they would apply this and they would do it. And the benefit of knowing what is recommended or what is mandatory and so on, if a person had to miss it, or there is more than one deed that a person is ordered to do, then the knowledge of knowing what is recommended and what is mandatory is very important. Because it's not permissible to do what is recommended and you would leave what is mandatory as a result of doing what is recommended. And the same thing if a person is having more than one deed, to choose what is even more rewardable. All of this is based on matters of Aqeedah. And once the belief is there, and once the knowledge of knowing what is mandatory, what is recommended, what is makruh, to avoid it, what is haram, to avoid it completely, and seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in avoiding what is haram and doing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us, all of this is matters of belief. So we should not ever belittle the subject of al-Aqeedah, because this is what makes the Muslim speak the way we speak and the way that we act. Also, as we know, which is a fact, and it's something that you probably heard many times, that this ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, as the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it's split as the nations before, and the whole human beings are split. And what is the reason for their divisions and splitting and so on? It's all because of matters of belief. So that's why there's either false belief or correct belief. So then the Muslim has to know exactly what things for us to believe, because these matters of belief also was the reason for the split of the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ said that, and he predicted that, not predicted, but this is revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the Prophet ﷺ said, وَسَتَفْتَرِقُ أُمَّتِي عَلَى 73 فِرْقَةً, that my ummah will split into 73 sects. كُلُّهَا فِي النَّارِ إِلَّا وَاحِدَةً, all of them are in the hellfire except one. And when he was asked والسلام, what is this one, he said, مَا أَنَا عَلَيْهِ وَأَصْحَابِي الْيَوْمِ, what me and my companions are on today. But before we go further, the 73 sects, all of them in the hellfire, it doesn't mean that they're all in the hellfire forever. They're not kuffar. Except one. This is not what it means. It means that they deviated in something that, like a sin, when a person commits a sin and he dies in the state of sin, right? Either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive that person, or if that person is punished, but eventually he will enter Jannah. And the same thing when it comes to these different sects. Some of them, they go outside the fold of Islam, and some of them are within the boundaries of Islam, but they are deviated in some things. That means if they die in that state, either they are forgiven because of ignorance, because of whatever reasons, or if punishment happens, then eventually they will enter Jannah because they were still Muslims. And that's why we should never forget the levels of the deen, the three levels of the deen, maratib al-deen, al-Islam, wal-Iman, wal-Ihsan. Al-Islam is the biggest circle, al-Iman is a circle inside, and then al-Ihsan is the smallest one inside the circle of al-Iman, the highest level of the deen, which is the level of al-Ihsan. But the reason I said we should never forget the biggest circle, which is the circle of al-Islam, because if the person is a Muslim, in that comprehensive sense, that means he has a right on you. There's still some level of brotherhood that has to be considered if he's a Muslim, right? And the highest level that he reaches, that means his right becomes more, and so on. All of this is because of the matters of Aqeedah. So that's why this is the most important thing for a Muslim to learn, and especially at times of fitan and tribulations and things like that. The thing that keeps the Muslim steadfast is matters of Aqeedah. The best book of Aqeedah is the Quran, right? And this is what we need to really learn. If we learn the Quran, if we understand the Quran, that's it. We need the Quran as the book of Aqeedah. And of course, we would never ever say the Quran alone, because the Quran would lead you in a very easy way to hold fast to the way of the Prophet ﷺ, because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us in the Quran. And the Quran also would lead you to follow the understanding and the belief of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, because this is what, so everything is in the Quran, and this is why it's the best book of Aqeedah. Aqeedah that affects the heart and the belief is firm, and the actions will be accordingly. But the reason why the people of knowledge, they wrote books of Aqeedah, to make it easy for the people to make it short and precise, and for them to get it in a very short period of time, so that they would act from these types of statements. And it's the way of the early generations of Islam, that they would have their Aqeedah and they would memorize it and they would say it whenever they are asked and needed to say it. And that's why the books of Aqeedah, you would say the Aqeedah of Al-Imam such and such, the Aqeedah of Imam Ahmad, the Aqeedah of Imam Shafi'i, the Aqeedah of the Imam Al-Arba'a, the Aqeedah of Imam Al-Awza'i. And you would find in the books like the book of Imam Al-Ajurri, in it he would mention these beliefs in a way that somebody asked Imam Al-Awza'i, what is your belief? So he would just say it from the beginning to the end. So it was something that is in their hearts, memorized. Like if I ask you now questions, what is your belief? Right? And one time we had some form of a exam, and we asked people, write down what you believe. You'd find people maybe talking about belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or one issue here, one issue there. But are we having it as a comprehensive meaning of all the matters of belief in our minds like this? It's very important that we have the matters of belief clear, of course with the evidence of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So the matters of Aqeedah is very important. And we look at what did the Ummah split on, whether it's the split on matters of the Quran, matters of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, split in matters of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. Sahaba, there's a belief with regarding to the Sahaba, and belief is based on evidence in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. When people leave themselves like this, what do we believe in the Sahaba radiallahu anhum? It's a matter of belief that we need to learn. Matters of Tawheed and Shirk, right? Associating partners with Allah. The issue of the righteous people, or awliya'ullah as-salihin, the righteous people. How do we believe in them? Who are they? And what is our relationship with us towards them? Can we make dua to them? Can we seek blessings from them? What do we do? Right? And this is another thing that splitted the ummah. You'd find people going to graves and doing certain things, and other people are saying that this is evil and it should be avoided. That's splitting the ummah. What is correct in all of this? Either people would follow their emotions, or they follow the truth, the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Of course, the matter in this should be very clear, which is part of the Aqeedah inshallah ta'ala that we will talk about. And many issues, right? Names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything. So that's why we need to study the matters of Aqeedah, and then accordingly we would act inshallah ta'ala. In the book of the 200 questions and answers, I don't have it with me, and it's translated too, so it's a good inshallah if somebody wants to purchase it. But the first question that is in the book is, what is the first wajib that the person is ordered to do, or ma huwa awwal wajib, or something of that nature. What is the most mandatory thing in one's life? This question, you would find it in books, and the people of knowledge, they talked about this. And this is also one of the things that the ummah was split as a result of the answer to this question. Some said the first mandatory thing is for a person to think, or to ponder, or to look another, right? They said another is the first wajib. It's for the human being to think and to look deeply and to have a proper vision. And when we look into the Quran, when we see the ways of the messengers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent, we would find clearly that the first wajib, the first thing that they ordered the people to do, is to worship none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was the first wajib. The messengers, when we see the way of the Quran, the messengers didn't go to the people and tell them, you see, believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is your creator. They already know these things. Of course, they would say this in the way to prove that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of worship. If they tell their people, look around you, look at the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful, He is the creator, and so on. As a result of that, worship Him alone. So they were leading the people to believe in the oneness of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the lordship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by His names and attributes and so on. So the first wajib is al-ibadah, to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of worship. And then after that he would talk about some of the points in matters of ibadah. So this is the first point. ما هو أول واجب? What is the first obligation? Is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and not to associate partners with Him. Then he talked about the two pillars of al-ibadah. And inshallah next time we'll have the book inshallah ta'ala and will be more structured inshallah ta'ala. The second point, which is also for us to memorize and to know, what are the two pillars of ibadah? Ibadah has two pillars to it. If there is no pillar existing, there is no ibadah. If one pillar only, it's not enough. Both pillars have to be there. And the two pillars of ibadah are كمال الحب مع كمال الخضوع.
Submission.
Now, kamal means
Perfect.
Al-Hubb is love, perfect love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the other pillar, Kamal al-Khudu' wal-Dhul lillahi azza wa jal, the perfect submission and humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the two pillars of ibadah. Your ibadah is not valid unless you have these two pillars in it. This is the whole life attitude that a Muslim should have, constantly having the perfect love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heart, with the perfect submission and humbleness to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The word kamal, or the perfect love and the perfect submission, it's meant to be this way, because it's nothing but being perfect. Why is that? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one to be loved a perfect love. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in each and every one of us this issue of love, this attribute of love. We love many things, right, as human beings. Who is the one that installed this in our hearts? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you try to measure the weight and the value of love, if it's feasible to do that, if it was feasible to weigh it physically, from the time of Adam alayhi salam till the day of judgment, how many human beings and how many things that they love, and if you just weigh this amount of love, it's something that is unimaginable. You add to this the things that's also in the animals and anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. All of this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in the human beings and the animals and so on. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that deserves for the believers to love Him the perfect love, because He is the one that created love itself. So He's the one that deserves the perfect love, because anything that you love other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the love will be not perfect, because you would love your parents so much, but you don't love or you don't like in them some smell, for example, right? Human beings are deficient. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us this way. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, was capable of creating us in such a way that we have no faults whatsoever, that we have no deficiencies whatsoever. But this is not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. So that we would humble ourselves, so that would lead us to the perfect act of worship and the perfect way of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He's the only one that deserves the perfect love from us. So it's perfect love. And if you look into why human beings they do things on this earth, the thing that drives them is love. Whether it's loving wealth, health, security, tranquility, anything. The reason why they go to work is because of the love of whatever. The reason why they get married is love. The reason why they have children is the love of having children, and so on. And the same thing matters of ibadah. Either a person, the driving force will be the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it's not, it becomes a deficient ibadah. So the thing that drives the Muslim to do anything is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The perfect love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the love of the believers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course this is something that is mentioned in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the believers and the disbelievers. In Surah Al-Baqarah, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. That means إذ تبرأ الذين اتبعوا من الذين اتبعوا ورأوا العذاب وتقطع بهم الأسباب. What's the beginning of the verse? ومن الناس من يتخذ من دون الله أندادا يحبونهم كحب الله والذين آمنوا أشد حبا لله. From the people, those who would take andadan, rivals, besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they love them the way that they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. The believers, they أشد mean more severe, more strong in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The believers, they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than these disbelievers, they love the rivals. And when we look into the verse, it states the fact that these disbelievers, they loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But why they become disbelievers? Because the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they associated partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this love. They love the rivals or the deities or the things that was being worshipped. They love them the same way that they love Allah. So they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they become still disbelievers because they loved other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that special love that it's only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mahabbatul ta'zeem. The mahabba of exaltation that makes the person have that perfect love in which it's supposed to be only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this perfect love, and the Prophet ﷺ even used to make dua in the authentic hadith, Allahumma inni as'aluka hubbak wa hubba man yuhibbuk wa hubba kulli amalin yuqarribuni ila hubbik. Oh Allah, I ask you your love, that I love you, because this is something that a person chooses, matters of iman, like matters of iman, you choose that as a result of matters of iman. And the love, the Prophet ﷺ would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to love those who love you, those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to love any and every action that would lead the person to the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِ يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you say that you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَاتَّبِعُونِ, follow me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would love you. So according to how much a person follow the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, then the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the person will be accordingly. So it's not a matter of too much emotions. It's about following the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The thing that makes the person move and drives him to follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also the following the way the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam brings the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hearts, and it brings the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to those who follow the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam. So that's why, as it should be always mentioned, since people are not on the same level when it comes to following the Prophet ﷺ, that's why they are not in the same level when it comes to the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their hearts and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to them. It's also according to how much they follow the Prophet ﷺ, because the Prophet ﷺ was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's why the more the person follow the Prophet ﷺ, this is a sign of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a subject that is very extensive. But this is briefly when it comes to the perfect love. Comes with it, the second pillar is Kamal al-Khudu' wal-Dhul, the perfect submission and humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Perfect, not deficient, not submission that is conditioned, right? Submission in the things that a person would think that would bring benefit. That's deficiency. That weakens this pillar of al-ibadah. It has to be perfect submission. And perfect submission means there is no hesitation whatsoever, there's no conditions, there's no second thoughts. It's total submission. And that's why each and every one of us would have to be tested with regarding to the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, and to the submission in a way that you would find some of the orders might not make sense to you according to your human capacity. Because if all the deeds, all the orders from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make perfect sense to us as human beings, where is the submission? You see what I'm saying? You see the benefit of the salah, sure, in this life. So you would do it because of the benefit that you get. Gives you tranquility, gives you peace. So the person would pray as a result of that. MashaAllah, this is good. But what if it doesn't? Right? Where is the submission then? Or wearing hijab, or not dealing with riba, or halal or haram, anything, right? If everything would make sense from the first instant like this, of course everything should make sense. Because anything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it's halal or haram, it is in such a way to give the human being the perfect life on the face of earth and the perfect one in the hereafter. So the halal and haram is not just to test us and that's it. No, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيُحِلُّ لَكُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَيُحَرِّمُ عَلَيْكُمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. That the Messenger of Allah would make a-tayyibat halal for you. All things that are pure and good. And He would make haram for you the khaba'ith, the evil things. So if the fitrah, if the instinct or the natural instinct of the human being is clean and pure, it becomes very clear that all the halal is all good things and all the haram are all evil things. But still, we would have to be tested with regarding to the total submission. And that's why in the Quran, in the stories of the messengers of Allah, the messengers and the followers of the messengers were tested with this matter of submission. They would have to face hardship, for example, to see who are truthful and who are not, who are just wanting to benefit from following the messengers, or who are truly submitting themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why you would find some of the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before the outcome of the actions of the people comes, to some people doesn't make sense at the moment of the order. Like the stories of the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, right? Many of the messengers of Allah, they would order the people to do something in which people didn't see the outcome of it, the immediate outcome of it, right? Like building a ship in the desert, like the mother of Musa to put her son in the water, right? If having the fear of Fir'aun, then cast your son into the river. That doesn't make sense to someone to think with his own intellectual abilities. But was the outcome disastrous? Of course not. The outcome was the total opposite. The outcome was that Nuh alayhi salam and his people were saved. But when they were building the ship, nobody saw this. They only needed the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only needed the revelation from Allah. And only the believers believe in it. The disbelievers, they didn't see that, so they would ridicule them and make fun of them. But the outcome was very clear. The same thing with Musa alayhi salam. Even if it took years, it doesn't matter. Even if it's not in this life, in the hereafter. Like in Surah Yasin, the pious man, the righteous man, when he called his people to worship none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he said, اتَّبِعُوا الْمُرْسَلِينَ اتَّبِعُوا مَنْ لَا يَسْأَلُكُمْ أَجْرًا. Follow those who do not ask you for any ajr or return or whatever, right? And then when the people killed him, right, he didn't see the outcome of his actions in his life. He said, قَالَ يَا لَيْتَ قَوْمِي يَعْلَمُونَ. He said, I wish my people would know. This he said that after he was killed. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him enter Jannah, when he received the glad tidings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said that. So this is someone that didn't see the outcome of his actions during his life. He saw it after this life. That's why the believers, when they have the total submission, they don't do that waiting for an outcome in this life. No, they have their hearts attached to the hereafter. They seek the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only in the hereafter. not on the face of earth. And that's why they would totally submit themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nothing would affect them on the face of earth. Hardship, difficulties, they don't see the outcome of their actions. It doesn't affect them because they already had made their covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they only seek the rewards in the hereafter. But by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them, these believers, steadfastness on the face of earth, and will give them means and signs of the goodness of their actions to keep them steadfast on the Salat al-Mustaqim. So this is when it comes to the perfect submission. Perfect submission to who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the only way that we know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us is through the final revelation to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And that's why the importance of knowledge comes in this subject. Because you are ordered to submit. You're ordered not to think too much if it's the order from Allah. Somebody would say, but Islam respect, the intellectual abilities of people and people to think. Of course, yes. And we are ordered to think and to find the wisdom behind things. But when it comes, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us something, we have nothing but to submit ourselves. It's good to think about the wisdom behind it, mashallah, this is good, but it has nothing to do with our submission. That's why, and probably if you heard this from me many times, be patient, inshallah ta'ala, that many people, they fall into this trap when they are being asked why women wear hijab in Islam. For example, they would say to protect the honor and dignity of the woman, and that woman is to be looked at as to her intellectual abilities, not as a physical thing, and so on. This is not why the Muslim woman wear hijab. The Muslim woman wear hijab, why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered her, that's it. A person would say, but the non-Muslims, they don't understand that. But your answer has to be like this first. Then you talk about the wisdom behind it, no problem. But why? Why you pray 5 times a day? Because it gives you peace? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us. And then we will talk about the wisdom behind it. Right? But first, this is the reason why. So that's why if we do this, then we won't wait for any form of an immediate reward. Person thinking that once he become a good Muslim, that means everything's supposed to be so easy for him on the face of earth. And he would just, enjoy his life so much. MashaAllah, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised. But not according to what our means are, of what is tranquility and what is goodness. It's something else other than the means that the human beings know. It's something that is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So physically you can see someone from far away, you would see what kind of joy that is. If somebody even look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, according to someone that is attached to this world, what kind of joy there is. When the life of the Prophet ﷺ, we know how on the personal level it was, and how they were from one battle to the other after the migration to Medina, and all the plots from the people of Medina and outside, right? And the life of the Prophet ﷺ when it comes to the tough life that they lived, and the hunger and the things like this, right? And we know this from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So for someone that looking at this from far away distance, he would say this is a tough life. But who was the happiest man ever walked on the face of earth? The Prophet ﷺ. Physically, this is what the reality of it. He was the happiest person on the face of earth. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum the same way. They were happy. Yes, they were happy. Why? Because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put that in their hearts. من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. Whoever do righteous good deeds, male or female, we would give them a goodly life, and they will be rewarded in the hereafter. So the goodly life is not, again, according to what we think. It's all something that is given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a result of that total submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the total submission needs the knowledge, the proper knowledge. And once we know this, we would make sure that we do not get anything matters of knowledge of the deen unless we know for sure that this is the right way. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, because you're supposed to submit. So imagine that you submit yourself to something that is wrong, take you into deviation, and you're supposed to submit. You're not supposed to question matters of deen. If it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's it. So that means you have to make sure that it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the Quran and the authentic Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the deen of Islam. So the importance of knowledge, once we know that, then we would seek the means of seeking knowledge. And if a person would follow the proper way of seeking the knowledge, and then something happened and he fell into a mistake, he's excused. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. This is the order from Allah. So we ask the people of knowledge if we do not know, and once we do this, and even if the answer was not the right answer, but we did what we're supposed to be doing, and even if we do what is wrong based on this, still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive the person, but we have to make sure that we ask the people of knowledge. So the common person, it is his responsibility to know for sure the people of knowledge, those who would follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ and so on. So these are the two pillars of al-ibad, kamal al-hub and kamal al-khudu' wal-dhul to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Perfect love with perfect submission and humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people, they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they claim that they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the perfect love only. It doesn't work, as we said. And that's why you would find them maybe committing sins. And they would say, I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I love the deen of Islam. The love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in my heart. I don't have to do these things that you guys are doing. Then we know for sure that this is false belief. Why? Because if they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would follow the Prophet ﷺ. They would have the total submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the ibadah with the submission also only, it's not enough, it's deficient. And it's not a good thing, because if they don't have the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their hearts, it does not bring any goodness to them. So both have to be there. The perfect love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the perfect submission to the Prophet ﷺ. One last thing, which I said it this morning to the students, is we would write down the definition of La ilaha illallah, or the first part of the Shahada, or both Shahada, and I'm not sure if we did that before here or not, but we will end up with this inshallah ta'ala, to memorize it and to teach it to our children, and to make sure that we understand it very well, because this is part of our belief. When we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Anybody knows it? Those in the books of Aqeedah is written like this. The meaning of La ilaha illallah, ay la ma'buda bihaqqin illallah, wa ghayru Allahi in ubida fa bibatil, ذلك بأن الله هو الحق وأن ما يدعون من دونه هو الباطل وأن الله العلي الكبير. Which means there is no one worthy of worship except Allah. There is no one worthy of worship except Allah. And anything that is being worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is falsehood. This addition has to be there. And then the verse from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, verse number 62 in Surah Al-Hajj. Verse 62, Surah Al-Hajj. Surah number 22, verse 62. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْحَقِّ. It's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the haqq, is the truth. وَأَنَّ مَا يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ هُوَ الْبَاطِلِ. And what they call besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is batil, is falsehood. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ الْعَلِيُّ الْكَبِيرُ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most high, the greatest subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it was enough for one's understanding to think ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ الْحَقِّ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the truth. But see, the addition is, and what they call besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is falsehood. You have to have both. That's what La ilaha illallah negates. Anything and everything that is being worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to disbelieve in all of this, and you have to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of worship. And the word ilah in Arabic derives from the two pillars that we mentioned. The one to be worshipped. Ilah means the one to be worshipped, with perfect love and perfect submission. And that's why the La ilaha illallah means no one is worthy of worship. The Arabs, they understood it very well when the Prophet ﷺ was sent. They didn't understand it as the creator of the heavens and the earth. He's the only creator of the heavens and the earth. They already believe in this. They didn't fight the Prophet ﷺ when they believe already that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the heavens and the earth. But when they understood it clearly, that means the Prophet ﷺ is ordering them to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the perfect love. That means all these idols, when they love it in the wrong way, the love of exaltation and the love of make them worship them and make dua to them and so on, that means all of these idols will be destroyed, and the total submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they fought the Prophet because they understood it just by saying La ilaha illallah. So Ilah is the one to be worshipped with perfect love and perfect submission. And anything that is worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is falsehood, and that's what the ayah says. And that's the oneness of worship. And the oneness of following the Prophet ﷺ is the second pillar, or the second part of the kalima, and that is, there is no one worthy of following, right, except the Prophet ﷺ, Muhammad ﷺ. And we should still add the same extension, but with regards to the Prophet ﷺ. And anyone that is being followed other than the Prophet ﷺ without clear evidence is falsehood. Because he ﷺ is the one to be followed without a condition, because he is the one that is being sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Other than the Prophet ﷺ, us following them is conditioned by the Prophet ﷺ, because they're supposed to be telling us or referring us to the Prophet ﷺ. So, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, bear witness that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the final messenger of Allah. That means he's the only one worthy of following, no conditions whatsoever. And anyone other than the Prophet ﷺ, if followed without an evidence, is being followed in matters of falsehood. And the verses of the Quran are many with this. So it's oneness of worship and oneness of following. And again, this is something that has to be the belief in the heart, that never changes whatsoever. And even if a person trying to apply this and he makes a mistake, but he's truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this belief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiver. But we have to have that truthfulness in ourselves, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that we worship, and the Prophet ﷺ is the only one that we follow. So this is what we supposed to, again, make the religion so easy, so everything will be referred back to the first pillar of Islam. And one of the beautiful things in the deen of Islam is that you have principles, you have foundations, you have matters of belief. You can very easily refer everything back to these foundations. Once you can't go back and refer it back, that means something wrong. Either what you're learning is wrong, or you're not having the proper understanding. You cannot say the only one worthy of worship is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you are told to go make a sujood to some grave, for example. It doesn't make sense. That means La ilaha illallah, you're not saying it right, or you didn't understand it properly. Right? There cannot be contradiction. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to fear Him alone, and then you would fear other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it doesn't make sense. Meaning in the matters of shirk, like those who would fear those who are in the grave, so that's why they have to go to them and give something to them. Otherwise they might revenge from them. Right? This negates what you said about La ilaha illallah. And the same thing when it comes to following the Prophet ﷺ. If we say that, and then we follow other than the Prophet ﷺ, and the matter becomes clear to us, has to be clear of course, that this is not the way the Prophet ﷺ, and we still do it, that means there is some problem here in our understanding or our belief when we say the only one that we follow is the Prophet ﷺ. So the matter is supposed to be very clear. And again, this doesn't mean that things of the religion becomes fawda or chaos like this, anybody follow whatever they want thinking that this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ? Of course not. Through the people of knowledge, of course. Because they're the inheritors of the Prophet ﷺ. So following the people of knowledge with this attitude that to the best of our knowledge and ability, this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ, because they showed us the way of the Prophet ﷺ. As mentioned many times before, the person of knowledge is the one that will clear the way for you to follow the Prophet ﷺ, not the one that would stand like a big stone between you and the Prophet ﷺ, tell you follow me, have big gatherings and followers, and he has his own way. And people, when they worship Allah and they do good deeds, they don't think of the Prophet ﷺ, they think of this person of knowledge. No, the person of knowledge is the one that would say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the Prophet ﷺ said, the Prophet ﷺ ordered us to do this, and he's a person of knowledge. So the people would follow the Prophet ﷺ. And the person of knowledge is someone that would lead them to follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ in all of their affairs. And that's how people would, that means they did their best by having this oneness of following of the Prophet ﷺ. And so this is something that we have again to refer everything back to the first pillar of Islam. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That's how things would fall in place and make sense, and we would see the beauty of following the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, again according to the people of knowledge, by following the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Any questions?
قال العلماء الشاهد الشيء تنبغي عليه العلم به فهل تقبل شهادة من لا يعرف معنى الشهادة؟
Brother is saying something very important when it comes to the shahada. And the shahada is to be even done with something like the sun. You have to have the knowledge of what you bear witness for. If you come in the court and you're a witness, you have to have seen what you're witnessing for. And they say do not make witnesses of anything unless it's like the sun to you. You have no doubt that this is the sun. So you say, I saw the sun. If it's not like the sun, do not witness. Someone saw someone running outside of a building, right? And he's not really sure who's that person. But he is almost sure that it's so and so. Almost sure. Can he go to the court in front of the judge and say it is so and so? It's not permissible. He has to have seen him like he would see the sun. No doubt whatsoever. He can explain, I saw someone that this height, he knew for sure that this is the height. His hair is black, he knew that for sure, because he saw that with his own eyes. But he cannot make assumptions, right? Or it's most probably this or this. This is a matter of shahada. So a person has to have the knowledge of it. So the same thing when we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, it doesn't work to be wishful thinking or imitating someone or following someone like this. We have to have the knowledge of it. Because you say, I bear witness. You saw that with your own eyes, without no doubt whatsoever. That's why we have to believe in it in such a way, and we have to have the knowledge of it. That's why one of the conditions of La ilaha illallah is al-ilm, the knowledge. If you get someone that doesn't understand the Arabic language, and he's a non-Muslim, and you tell him, say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, and he says that, and he doesn't understand what he's saying, is he a Muslim? He's not a Muslim. He has to understand what he's saying. So, understanding what we're saying, and knowing the matters of Aqeedah, that's why the knowledge of it is mandatory. We're not talking about a gathering that people are being asked to come in the rules of Aqeedah as a matter of luxury. MashaAllah, increasing our knowledge is good. I get to know something, like as if we're reading something in physics or chemistry. This is a mandatory knowledge of every Muslim. A mandatory knowledge and responsibility on every parent to teach their children, matters of belief. This is what everything else will be built according on top of these matters of belief. So, Jazakumullah khairan for the clarification. This is something that we have to have the knowledge of this. And matters of Aqeedah cannot be taken from opinions. It has to be based on evidence. The Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ And this is how they used to believe at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the time of the early generations of Islam. Not something of, if you read books of Aqeedah, sometimes you would find people get into philosophy and they start making matters of Aqeedah based on some thinking, right? And things that they imported from some other ways of life. Right? Like the very simple thing that maybe people didn't get exposed to it, like the Quran, for example. Like Imam Ahmad, when he was tested with this, Quran is the Kalamullah Azza wa Jalla. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke the Quran. This is how simple the matter is. But they get into philosophy. And that led them to believing false belief. And he was tested and tried as a result of that. So the matters of belief is so easy and simple. And you would find the most sophisticated person. One last point is, matters of Aqeedah, you would find the most sophisticated person and the very simple person, they're all equal in understanding it. It doesn't need a very smart person. Any person should understand it, and that's why it should be something very simple and very clear, without getting into some form of deep thinking and things like that. It's very easy and simple. So before we end, and if you have any questions, the points that we mentioned today is what is the first obligation, and what are the two pillars of ibadah, and the meaning of Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And inshallah ta'ala, next time, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us life, we'll go from the book, one question after the other. And tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, is hadith.
Tafsir.
Tomorrow's tafsir?
Hadith.
Hadith. Inshallah, this, what we're doing now is only for 3 weeks, inshallah ta'ala. So we're trying to finish something in 3 weeks. So I thought in the hadith, we'll do something a little bit different, which is not the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi, but it's called Al-Arba'un As-Sughra. It's the minor 40 by Imam Bayhaqi. Right? So it's 40 hadith, and actually the 40 hadith are not just by Imam Nawawi. They're because of some hadith, although some had said it's weak hadith, that whoever collect 40 hadith, he will be rewarded and so on. So many ulama, they have their 40 hadith, right? So I thought maybe many people have already known maybe the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. So we'll take the 40 hadith of Imam Bayhaqi. It's called Al-Bayhaqi. 40, it's called Al-Arba'un As-Sughra, the minor.
Did you take those hadiths from his book, Bayhaqi, or they are separate?
No, they're separate.
They're separate.
But he called them the 40. Right. And only what is authentic, inshallah ta'ala. And it's in the same thing as the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. It deals with matters of belief, matters of manners, things like this, inshallah. Comprehensive hadith. So this is with the hadith, inshallah ta'ala. Hopefully we can, I'm not sure, I don't have means yet, but I don't know, maybe we can print these hadith each time with whatever is going to be explained, for people to write notes maybe in the paper.
Yeah, but
And inshallah at the end of the 3 weeks, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us life, we'll make a little quiz.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.
Forgive me, I'm a little sleepy with the